Okay.
And then when you're ready, just the video.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Discus Talk. I am here today with Discus Divana.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to the stream.
Thank you very much for having me. It's such an honor. Thank you very much.
Oh, anytime. You guys, we did, several weeks ago, we did the Ladies of Discus, and Discus Divana wasn't with us at that point. We hadn't met yet, but we have since then. So I wanted to introduce everybody to her and let her tell you about herself and where she's at and all of that. Go ahead, Discus.
Thank you so much, Tammy. So my real name is Nalise. I'm known as Discus Divana. Divana originally just means very crazily in love with discus. I wanted to be the discus diva, and I thought, no, let me choose something a little less glamorous, a little less humble, a little bit more humble. So my name is Discus Divana, and I'm in South Africa. We currently have a good summer weather over here, and it's raining a lot. And I reached a peak of about 140 tanks of discus some time ago. And then there was a disease that broke out, and I lost all my discus. And then now I'm slowly rebuilding my way back. But in between, I've been Googling some breeders and discovered Tammy and them. And it's so cool. Now I'm here. So cool.
It's awesome. I've seen some of your videos. You have some great videos.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
try.
Absolutely.
I
try. Yours are Stenkers, aren't they? Or are they
Yes.
mixed? Okay.
Yes. I had a mix a while ago. And then I went a little bit more strict on biosecurity. So I started importing less sources for
Right.
mixing. And then I leaned towards European fish. But I had quite a few pretty Asian fish as well at some point.
Right. Awesome. We have one tank with all Stenkers in it. We have 2 Stenkers in the fish room and another tank. But I absolutely love the Stenkers. I like the Asians too. I think they all have their own benefits, their own pluses, and their own minuses. So we do have a mixture of them. So what's that one behind you?
Yeah, I love the shape. These guys are from Thailand. They're actually a friend of mine's.
Okay.
That he passed on to me to keep temporarily, and then I'll sell for him. So there were a few incidents with these guys a while ago, pH crash, and he kept them with a lot of other unsuitable fish as well, like lobsters. He was bitten by a lobster and he survived. So these guys here are just wonderful with their personality.
Awesome.
And,
awesome.
Yeah. So these are just my display fish for now. Come on. They're a little bit nervous with all my equipment.
Oh, I can imagine.
They're not used to all the lights. Yeah. Come boy.
As you can see, we're in my hospital room, so all my discus are either in the living room or in the fish room. So I don't have any discus in this room, but that's unfortunate.
You guys are stunning fish, though.
Thank you. You do too.
Fish. Yeah.
You absolutely do too. I've seen yours; they're pretty. But you do microscope work, right?
I started that recently, yes, especially after seeing and becoming aware of how many diseases are rampant across the ornamental industry, and how many different pathogens exist in the freshwater world. So for me, I wanted to make a change, make an impact, make sure that the fish that we import are quarantined properly and that you can see under the lens what's really going on. And properly identify before you use antibiotics. Start using antibiotics more responsibly and all of that, yes. But it's pure fascination, with so much that can go wrong with our fish. Yeah. Tammy, I think your sound went off. Yeah, it sounds like your mic is muted for some reason. Can you hear me though? Can you hear me though? I think your mic might be off, yes. I'll double check from my side here. Just, yeah, everything looks fine my side. Just check everything. I still can hear you. I heard you perfectly until now. Just see. My computer has sound. I've got sound my side. Everything's working. It's just you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you a little bit. Yeah, I can hear you a little bit.
What happened there, guys?
No stress, no stress. Yeah, you were saying?
I have no idea.
Yeah, we were talking about you said, well, I've started using microscopy,
Right,
and I've seen quite a few professional breeders do that. And
right,
any fish that you import, if you can see what's going on in the fecal matter, in some of the organs, you know what you're dealing with.
right,
It just really improves the way of quarantining. So that's why I'm doing microscopy. I also want to monitor what's coming into South Africa because we get a lot of fish across the border, and we don't have such strict biosecurity rules as some areas in Europe
right.
or America may have. Yeah. So I just feel it's more responsible if a breeder could monitor their fish before they spread it to the rest of
That
the.
makes perfect sense. If I get something, and I've bought from several different suppliers in the U.S., I like to know what's going on with them too, and
Yeah.
I will check them to see if I can figure out what they might have, and then if I see somebody else's fish that are sick, then I know, I have a good idea of what's going on with them. I figured
Yeah.
out my problem with the microphone. The transmitter wasn't charged.
Yeah. Oh.
So I put it on the charger. But it
Yeah.
helps to know, what's going on inside the fish and which breeders have which problems because everybody's going to have problems
Yes.
at some point. And
Absolutely.
they need to have an idea of
Absolutely.
what's going on so they have an idea what to treat with. But
Yes.
it's like I was talking, it's simply discus today. The majority of people see an issue and think that automatically it's this or automatically it's that when it might not be. And the
Yeah.
prime example that I used on that was white poop. That white
Yes.
poop could be absolutely nothing,
Yeah.
or it could be worms, or it could be
Yeah.
protozoa, or it could be
Mhm.
something more serious. It could be a liver problem, it could be a stomach issue.
Yeah.
It just kind of depends, on how the fish is acting. Is the fish eating? I saw somebody one day that posted, "My fish has this white poop. What do I do?" And I saw all this list of medications. Do this one, do that one, do the other one. And I just asked, I said, "Is the fish eating?" And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "What is it eating?" And they said, "Oh, brine shrimp." And I said, "Well, then the poop is perfectly normal. You're feeding a light colored food and the poop is light colored.
Yeah.
That's normal."
Mm.
And people don't realize that, and they're like, "Oh, well, throw this medicine at it and throw that one." But what they don't realize, like metronidazole, can destroy the gut bacteria, and
Yeah.
that in itself will cause white poop. It takes time for that to restore itself as well. So you may have white poop for a few weeks,
Mm.
and so somebody saying, well, throw this at it. You've already done metronidazole and it didn't work because it still has white poop, so throw something else at it. And then you get another problem. It's called kidney failure.
Yeah,
And,
people
people
don't
don't
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't understand. And sometimes the fish don't eat after completing a course of antibiotics because the microflora in the gut has been destroyed.
Right.
And what I tend to do is I'd use a frozen mix that's gentle because discus that were very sick, they don't really want to eat dry foods, harsh foods. You know, when you're nauseous, you don't want to eat a full plate of food immediately. You'll try and eat a rice cake or a dry piece of toast or something like that.
Right.
And it's all about just learning to read your discus, you know, and see, do they want to, what are they willing to eat? And some people would start with a bloodworm, other people would start with a little bit of frozen food. I like to start with frozen food that thaws.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we would add probiflora or, you know, probiotics into the food to help restore the gut. Yeah.
We've got
It
somebody
sometimes works.
coming in, so let me add him to the stream real quick. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, everybody.
I'm glad.
Hi, Carrie.
How are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Carrie. So cool to have you with us.
Awesome. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I've watched your videos in the past, and I know who you are. You are known.
Oh wow. Oh wow. I didn't realize how many people watch my videos though.
Yeah.
We love discus.
The serious discus people do watch them.
Yeah. If we can find them. I had not run across your channel, so when you posted on my channel, I went and watched all the videos. So, I mean, we do that. But I had never come across your channel, and I don't know how.
Yeah, I don't really advertise a lot. And it's quite recent that I've been paying attention to YouTube channel.
Right.
So for a few years, I was just a hobbyist and getting to know discus, you know, getting to read their language.
Yes.
And understanding them, gaining a bit of experience between all the struggles.
Right.
And then when I was a bit more comfortable and people started needing help, I decided to do something about it, especially locally in South Africa. We're on the other side of the world. I mean, we're at the bottom.
Right.
We tend to get the tail end of the fish.
Yeah.
Quality of the fish. And so I want to make a difference.
You have.
I mean,
You did, just by what you just said now, just that you know the difference in the quality and helping people. Thank you. Awesome.
Absolutely.
That's what it takes.
And that's what it should be about. And that's what we're all here for, I think, is to help others and
Yes.
teach others the differences. And I just think it's great, you know, that we can all hook up, and even from around the world. Like I had the interview with Sue Young, and that was amazing.
I watched most of it. Yeah. Oh.
That was an absolutely amazing interview. I'm wanting to do some with some of the breeders over in Malaysia. I think that would be something that, you know, would get information out that people.
Oh, you should, because the ornamental industry there is colossal. It's huge.
Yeah.
I think that would be amazing if you could get in there. For sure.
Absolutely. That's something I'm looking at for the future. But I do want to, you know, I want to continue to get the information out about the diseases, about the medications, and that sort of thing. The only thing is, when they see the videos, if they see it, let's say 2 years down the road, the medications that are used may have changed since then, because the research changes, and the findings change, and everything becomes resistant at some point.
Yeah.
You know,
microbial resistance is a real threat. I've got some books from Dietary, books from 2010 and 2012, and some of the dosages that are in there are not strong enough for some of the fish we're getting. And flagellates, I believe, is one of the biggest threats to our ornamental industry now. But discus, Oscar, some eutrophical fish. And it's wiped out my whole business last year. So I really want to prevent, I want to help other people. And let's make everyone aware.
Yeah, I've been through it myself a few times. Hard head. I had to always learn the hard way. And that's kind of what happened to me as well. It's happened a few times, but I will never let it happen again. Try my hardest not to.
Because where you learn sometimes is through pain.
I want to take a second to recognize a couple of people who have come in. Petro Man, I told you before, you've got to separate your discus if you don't want them to breed. Nigel's here. Hi, Nigel.
Nigel Proctor. Welcome, Nigel.
Friend Diego from Petzotics. Y'all need to go see his website. It's petzotics.com. If you want to put your link in there in the chat, that would be great. Kevin, I am from Alabama. Discus Divana is from South Africa. And Carrie is from Michigan. Everybody knows where you're from, Carrie.
Yeah, we've been on the news a lot lately.
Don't do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this
I was trying
Carry
to
on.
a little bit with the chat because people had asked questions and I just didn't catch them. So
you mean in this stream?
yeah.
Wow.
Are you not seeing the chat pop up?
Nope, I don't see
My
it.
friend John Oliver,
I don't see it
Oliver
either.
sent me guppies, and they are absolutely beautiful guppies, and he's in the chat.
Are you gonna show us? Or are you gonna tease
I cannot take my camera over there,
us?
but they are in the middle tank down here.
Oh yeah, we can see them great.
Oh, I know, right?
Oh, I see the chats now.
I see them now.
You'd need bigger glasses than that to see them,
Yeah.
because they're way over there.
Well, I'm doing this off my phone. I would really like to take them off, but yeah. I can see
Yeah,
nothing
you won't be able
there.
to see if you do that.
Just a color blur.
Francis Barreto says, Carrie Strong, the legend is back. Yes.
I'm just hard-headed. That's all. I am no legend. I am no legend. I like I said, I'm a hard learner. I don't like following other people. I try to like figure it out myself. I try to like, and then when I do, I kind of stick with it. If it works for me, I mean, I know there's other ways to do it. Bunch of ways to be successful in discus, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how I got caught up in all this. I just wanted to help people and you know, teach everyone what was real about discus and what was myth about discus, and I get involved in that a lot. I mean, I really should have put a lot of my energy and power into doing something like you ladies have done and lots of other people have done, but I'm just a forum person, I guess. That's all I've ever done. Breed some nice fish, take care of nice fish, and help people on the forums, and that's kind of my destiny.
That's amazing. I mean, a lot of us have multiple tank syndrome.
Yeah.
But you can make quite a big difference, hey, just by sharing your passion.
Yes.
People are attracted to that energy.
Two tanks. Carrie needs a tank with a pair in it and a grow-out tank, probably about 500 gallons for all the babies he has from one couple.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, see, that's the thing too. A lot of people will, even like discus hounds will tell you, smaller batches are sometimes better, and in my opinion, batches can be different from discus hounds. I mean, you could end up with a nice strong batch at first, and then the next batch might not be so good, and it could be due to water quality or many other things can play in the key in that point. But I've noticed that with certain spawns, the bigger spawns, you tend to get a little more issues with some of the fry. And I've actually had pairs where, yeah, they'll raise up 300 fry, but by the time they get, a week old, the male's taking, he's going to take out 20, 30 of them just to lower the levels. I've watched it. And I'm like, oh, no, they're eating them off. Well, no, he only ate half of them. He's going to raise the rest, but he didn't want that many. And they've done that. They're very unique fish, that's for sure. Very unique.
Yes, that's one of the reasons why I love discus so much is they've got a unique language. And if you can learn to read that language,
yes,
because I believe they talk to you. Okay, I know I sound a little crazy here,
no,
but I believe that they talk to each other. And they talk to you as owners, and they behave different towards you than strangers as well.
Pat Husband has her signature on Simply Discus forums, and her signature is "Your fish are talking. Are you listening?"
Right.
And that's exactly what it means.
Yeah, that's a good modem to go by. Definitely.
Sure.
Absolutely. and I see it daily. A lot of people will send me messages and they'll send me pictures of their fish and say, this is going on and this is going on. And I say, can you send me a video? Because I want to see it. If I don't see it moving, see how it's
Yes.
acting, you can't tell from a photo.
Yes.
And that's one thing that drives me nuts. I know Carrie saw that post I made today, because it's very frustrating when somebody says, oh, it's worms, treat with metronidazole. And I go, why are you treating with that?
Right.
That's not for worms.
Metronidazole is such a popular antibiotic. People tend to just chuck it in,
Right.
because so many people use it,
Right.
and they don't. Yeah.
And the doses vary too. Somebody will tell you quarter teaspoon per 20, half a teaspoon per 20. I've even seen people go up to a teaspoon, recommend it to people. It's like, ugh, but yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in the heat is the most important, especially with domestics, raising it up to 92, 93, treating with Metro a couple days after, and going with the full dose. I usually do a quarter per 20, and I've never had any issues going, that not being enough, 20 per gallon, doing it for 8 to 10 days, running that high temperature, and usually does the job. I've never had to add tablespoons or teaspoons of the stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It varies.
Try treat mild cases with environmental factors first, like temperature,
Yes.
or Epsom salts, or if the gut's blocked or bloated,
Right.
or before you jump into metronidazole.
Yeah.
Um,
And one of the first things that I do if I have a sick fish is I throw salt on it.
Salty dog.
Salt on it.
Salt is good though. I mean,
Yeah.
I could use salt big time. I mean, back in the day, back in the late 80s, when everything was going on, I mean, I've gone as high as 1 cup. We were treating for cryptobia, and we were using like 1 cup of salt, and we had secondary infections of. I actually used that for Vibrio cholera too. That fish were carrying from Thailand, and we did as high as a cup per 10 gallons, and like very triple dose, high doses of methylene blue, like at 3 times the recommended rate to get rid of it. And did lose a lot of fish, did save some fish. But yeah, I mean, salt is great. I've always been a firm believer in salts.
Just out of curiosity, did that work with the cryptobia?
It actually did. It actually did. It was. I mean, Tammy, you could not even see the fish in the tank. I mean, if the light was off, you could not see in the tank. You could not see the fish. It was so blue.
Right.
But yeah, it was.
wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Wow. That was.
Oh
What
yeah.
was your exact dosage?
I still have stains from 20 years ago all over the basement.
But salt and methylene blue is golden oldies, really.
Yeah.
Works until today.
Yes.
There's no microbial resistance developed against salt, really, or methylene blue.
Yeah.
And back in the 80s, you didn't have so many medicines like you had today.
Right.
So I still believe in some of the
Old.
older original methods to treat fish before you
Yes.
go ahead with something stronger,
Right.
Yep. I still
if you
keep.
can avoid it.
I still keep formaldehyde on hand as well. 37% formaldehyde. Not the safest, not the best thing, but it's still, oh man, for a quick fix.
It's a shotgun.
Yeah. If you're in a jam.
Parasites.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also have formaldehyde. When Cryptobia, I had the balance strains, so these 4 strains of Cryptobia.
Oh wow.
I think 3 are curable and 1 is not. So you get Branchialis, Salmonacida, which is in cold water, and then
Right.
Ubalance, which broke out in my place last year.
Oh wow.
And we found it under a very small microscope, and nothing worked. Metronidazole didn't work, nothing worked.
Wow.
But I did not use a very strong salt dose, and maybe that would have worked.
Yeah, and I forgot who recommended that to me. It was at the time I was dealing with. His name is Roy Kuhn. He's from Singapore, and they were recommending that dosage to me. And at first I was like, no way. And I talked to like Al Sabetta and a few other people before I did it, and a lot of us were like, yeah, you're gonna pickle those fish. I mean, that's pretty high. And it did a lot manage. A lot mattered as far as my water too, because I'm more of moderate water. I'm not hard. I'm not soft. I'm kind of like right in the middle, more closer to the softer side. So, it would depend on that. It depended on that as well, on the type of water, the hardness you had. So, yeah, and I ended up doing it, and yeah, it was pretty scary. But I did clear it up. And at the time, I wasn't using a microscope. I was using a pathologist in Missouri, and I would send the fish to them. They had students, so all that was done for free. I just had to pay for the shipping and pack the fish and get them to them alive, and that's they did a lot of the work for me. So yeah, it was pretty scary.
And that's something else that I think we should look at more in our industry, is start looking under the lens a bit more, start zooming in a little bit more.
Yep,
We don't have enough.
Yeah, not everybody can learn that.
Yeah.
They can sit there and
That's
they
true.
can look under a lens, but they can't tell the difference between one pathogen and something that's supposed to be there.
Oh yeah, Tammy, you're right. It's like
So
learning another
that's
language.
hard. That's a real hard one. I get people all the time sending me if they tried this and asking me what type of worm did my fish have. And so it's hard for some people to be able to actually distinguish between that and a capillaria or something like that. And I get that. And something I want to mention, because I don't want what Carrie was talking about, that dosage to go too far. Carrie was working with a pathologist when he did that.
Yes.
That was under direction of a veterinarian.
Sure.
And what I forgot to say, these were short baths. So these were like 8-hour baths with
Right.
big water changes after. So this wasn't like a 24-hour leave it sit for a week kind of thing.
Yeah, no.
Right.
A lot of work.
Running out and doing that dosage and leaving them sitting there for the.
Yeah.
And it's hard work, to keep it up. It is hard work. A lot of people also don't pull through with it.
Right.
And that's where we sometimes get the resistance, microbial resistances
Yep.
from people not following the exact regime like it was scientifically designed for.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Petro, she is actually from South Africa. And she is of Dutch descent, but she's actually from South Africa. And yes, that was one of the first things I asked, because my husband is from the Netherlands.
How's the weather there?
The weather is really nice. I mean, that's one of the perks of South Africa, is we've got some of the best weather in the world. We've got sunny weather and, solar power. It's just expensive, but we really can reap the benefits from that.
Wow.
And it's currently summer over here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite nice. We've had a lot of rain.
I wonder, I need to find out exactly. So the company I work for, we are building a school in South Africa. I don't know the name of the village. I would have to look it up, but they're building a giant school, a boarding school for the whole village, all donated. The guys that I work for, my investment company. And yeah. I'll have to look it up and get back to you on that, but they are doing that. I might have to actually be taking a trip out there. So next year.
Let me know, Carrie. Maybe I'll go with you.
Definitely.
You have to stop by.
I will.
You come
definitely
here.
stop by. I will
We'll give you
definitely-
royal treatment.
That's where I was getting at.
Carrie,
Absolutely,
if
always
I'm gonna
welcome.
let you know, so
Thank
you
you,
can go to
thank you.
Malaysia, you're going to let me know so I can go to South Africa.
Yes. Be awesome.
Sun's out, buns out.
Yes. Awesome.
Absolutely.
I
We have a
fish
lot
are
of
not
people
even in the
come out
shop.
today. I'm hoping everybody will have some questions for us. But I'm hoping to start getting that research stuff going. I've decided to wait until after the first of the year to actually start setting it up. I've got to make some contacts with some people with another organization, and I'm going to try to work with them on getting everything set up. They should be a great deal of help since they've already set one up. But theirs is not actually for research. I want mine to go for research.
Yeah.
And but we are working on that kind of behind the scenes, and I'm so busy now I don't have time for anything. I know Carrie knows that because I haven't bugged Carrie for at least 2 weeks now. Carrie got worried and called me last night.
Yeah. know it.
This weekend has actually been a relaxing weekend for me. I went and bought fish. Don't need any more. And
Christmas
had
came
to set
early.
up tanks. Well, my room's been empty. I haven't had any sick discus to put in my hospital, so I've actually now got tanks of betas, tanks of guppies, and the monsters got moved out to the fish room, so they're not in here anymore. I don't like them. So. But my husband wanted to get those duck-billed catfish that get like real big and they're predators. And then he had
Shovel nose?
Yeah, no, the duck-billed. They're a different species, and I've got it written down, but I can't remember which scientific name it is. But I think it's in the same family. And then he
Gotcha.
wanted the marble gobies, and they also get big and are also predators, but they're no longer in this room. But now I have guppies, and I have lots of guppy babies, and I've got the betas, which I'm going to experiment with breeding because I've never done it. I've had betas, but I've never wanted to breed them, so I'm going to do that. Kim is in the house.
Fascinating. It's fascinating.
Well, I had a friend that bred them back in the day, and he was talking about they do the styrofoam lid, and then they put the bubbles in there, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that sounds like too much trouble. No, I don't want to do that. But it's going to be interesting. How
Yeah, I
many
had
discus
guppies.
tanks do I have? Too many? No, there's never too many.
Never too many. No, you can never have. Once the bug is
Um,
bitten you, it's bitten you.
Right. Normally, I have 350-gallon grow outs with discus in it, but one of them sprung a leak. So I've now got those in 3 tanks, and then I've got the big tank in the house, and then I've got all the 55s. And I honestly cannot tell you how many 55s we have discus in right now. I do know that here in about an hour or 2 hours, that a bunch of those discus are going to be gone. We have right now over 200 discus sitting.
200 discus.
Yeah, I don't know how many tanks
Wow.
we set up with discus right now. I've got a lot of empty tanks, so.
Yeah, a lot of my tanks are empty now, and it leaves an empty spot in my heart. So some of the tanks in this office, if you don't mind me moving the camera a little bit,
Go ahead.
there's some shrimp tanks currently that
Okay.
will be replaced with shrimp with discus eventually.
Okay.
Sorry, there's my printer over there. I've got a guppy poster over there, but anyway. It's just a lot of shrimp tanks. After I lost all my discus, we made a plan just to keep going, because
Right.
when you've suffered such a colossal loss,
It takes a lot out of you. It does. It hurts.
I was this close to stopping, and the local community was just so supportive, and everyone that
That's
was
awesome.
helping me. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
I've also had about.
I might have told Tammy this. I know I've mentioned it to a few people, but I mean, yeah, the first time it happened to me, I mean, I was buying blue diamonds at quarter size for $50, and I think I maxed out credit cards just to make this because I wanted to do this, and I was gonna do this. I was gonna breed this fish and figure it out. And the first time I was wiped out, I mean, yeah, I was in tears. I was like, wow, this, and they just went fast. There was nothing. I didn't know what to do, and yeah, it was pretty bad. It takes a lot out of you, and it's hard to get back on that horse and get going again. But I did it, and then it happened again, and yeah, I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm about to learn parasites, everything I need to know about bacteria, microscope time, talk to the pathology labs a little more, figure things out, and yeah, it was hard to get going again. I understand that. That sucks.
You kind of have this determination. Some people do. Some people give up, and some people have this determination to just try again. So I will not let this happen to me again. I'm one of those people, for sure. Yeah.
I had a virus run through my main tank about 3 years ago.
Sorry about
It
that.
wiped out almost all of them. We couldn't figure out what was going on. I ended up driving a fish down to Florida, to the University of Florida, getting pathology done. And it was determined that they had a virus, that the virus in that particular fish had run its course. And since most of the other fish were already recovering, I didn't really worry so much about that. But to know that it had happened was kind of scary. But they did also have capillaria, which we figured out which supplier that came from. And
Capillaria can do a lot of damage.
it can. But we treated the rest of the tank, and everybody else that was in there was fine. But it took actually going and getting this necropsy done to find out for sure what had happened there. The only parasite they found was the capillaria. They didn't have hexamina. They didn't have any other issues. So between that and the virus, it was just wiping my tank.
It's terrible.
Did they find out what strain of virus it was?
They said it had already run its course, so they couldn't determine which one it was.
Oh yes, right. Yeah.
But the damage was
We
still there.
we tend to get VHS, which is called viral hemorrhagic septicemia.
Yeah.
Or lymphocystis is less common, or the Koya herpes virus doesn't really come into SA, and tuberculosis also doesn't really come into SA that much. But VHS, septicemia is a problem here. And as far as I know, there's no cure for that. And the best thing that you can do is just quarantine and euthanize, sterilize and start over again.
Yeah.
We actually say, the good bit. You can also do immune system boosting. Once they've had it, they most likely won't get it again. So I want to stop and say hello to some people that came in. Kim, hi sis. And
Hi, Kim.
Richie's here from Australia, our friend over there that's breeding his discus. He's got some.
Hi, Richie.
Hi,
Richie's
Rick.
Richie's really been supportive in my journey as well.
Yeah,
Good.
he's amazing. Colin is in. Hi, Colin. How are you? And Francis has a question for you, Nelise. Have you tried wormwood herbal medicine for flagellates?
Yes, wormwood extract. One of our homeopathic doctors in South Africa tried it and then suggested it to me to say, well, let's try it on mild cases. But I've never tried it in a bath, the actual drops, because it's an oil, it's a tincture. So we would dilute it with alcohol, and then we would just dose it orally, directly onto the food. And research is still being conducted on wormwood, but I have seen under my microscope, you can see your largest flagellates like Protoplina, some of your spironucleus strain that caused the white poop that Tammy mentioned earlier. The numbers are greatly reduced and they move slower. But I've never used it in a bath, as is the drops. What I have tried is the actual herbs, the dried herbs that you put in a tea bag. And I think I used just a tablespoon in a tea bag, and I hung it in a 3-foot in 100 liters. But my discus were twitching. So the anal fin and the dorsal fin were twitching, and then they just do this, and then they're annoyed.
Oh, right.
So I just took it out. So I believe if you can do oral treatment, it's like metronidazole or wormwood. If you can, do it because it's more effective.
Right. Something to go along with the wormwood is, I mentioned it already, is boosting the immune system, because their immune system actually keeps some of these parasites at bay. Their immune system is strong enough, even if they have Xamida or if they have some of the other parasites, even if they have them, they won't affect them if their immune system is strong enough. So always boosting the immune system is a good start.
Tammy's right. Tammy's right. Immune system. I see that with discus. There's sometimes an underlying issue in discus, and it doesn't come out until there's a stress factor or an environmental factor that starts affecting them. And if the immune system of discus or tropical freshwater fish are compromised, then they start getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So whatever you do in your nutrition and your water husbandry should be to protect the immune system, always.
Absolutely.
Of all fish. Yeah.
I agree.
Your water quality, the environment, that's your first defense against all things.
A lot of people chase perfection as well with water parameters. And this site says this, and this site says this, and everyone has a different view, and it's like religion. Everyone's got a different view, and you're so confused and you're so overwhelmed
Right.
all the information that's on the internet.
Yeah.
And we all have different water sources.
Yes.
We all have different foods, and that's why there's so much contrasting information on the internet. But the key, I don't know about you guys, but the key for me is consistency is the key.
Consistent.
Once you find the balance, keep it there. Don't fuss, don't mess.
Yeah. I got
Do
one
what works.
theory. We haven't talked about this. My theory on where the information on keeping a low pH come from. And I put a lot of thought into it. I'm thinking, well, when they first brought these fish out of the Amazon, these fish have no natural immunity to any bacteria. And they may have been putting them into a cycle tank. They may have been putting them into a higher pH than they came from. Is it not possible that the original issues were actually water related, but not necessarily pH related when they first started bringing them out of the Amazon? And that maybe, you know, as time went on, we learned better husbandry, had, you know, less bacteria in the water and stuff like that. And that's the reason now they can be adjusted more to the higher pHs. What are your thoughts on that? Because we've evolved quite a bit since they first started bringing the wild fish.
Yeah, I do believe that, you know, organisms should adapt. You either adapt or you die. And when it comes to discus, they never really evolved like Malawi cichlids or a lot of Asian fish between all the other species.
Right.
So they're not always used to other species. So when you tend to keep discus on their own, you don't really have problems. But when you mix different sources of bacteria, you know, you tend to get compatibility issues or discus plague or whatever. But coming back to the pH, I do believe discus were designed for a slightly lower pH. And the better you can imitate nature, the more you can imitate nature, the better. But not all of us can do that. Some of us have a higher pH. And then the question comes in, what do? Do you try and chase perfection, you know, and reduce it with buffers or acids or resins or peat or softer water, whatever? Or do you just try and strive for consistency?
Right.
See,
Yeah, I think that's the biggest key with cross contamination these days is, I mean, the acid water that they derived from, you know, where their genetic makeup was established. Yeah, anytime you're going to move a species from that type of environment into alkalinity environment where bacteria is present in higher numbers and more abundant, I mean, I think that's how a lot of it is happening these days. It's not necessarily the higher pH. It's just the pH being over 7.0 and no longer it being acidy anymore. Because, you know, lower acids, lower pH, yes. You're not going to inhibit so much bacteria. Actually, your filters won't even work as good in that type of water. And I was a sucker. When I first got into discus, I was using phosphoric acid, 55-gallon drums, giant socks with peat moss. I couldn't get anything to breathe. Not a domestic discus. Until I stopped all that and just went to straight tap water, then everything started to happen. But
And that's
again,
very surprising.
yeah. But with the cross contamination and all the different bacterias, I believe that problem does lie with us keeping them now and the farms because it's just easy, less expensive, trying to do everything and pay for everything and less work. And that's just it's like a catch-22. It's just something you have to deal with now and be careful of.
Right. I say I was specifically talking about the wilds. The domestic bred in 7.4, 7.5, 7.6 pH now.
Yeah.
But the wilds themselves, I think they're more susceptible to the bacteria in the aquarium. And I think that may have been the issue when they first came out. So they started lowering the pH on the water when they were bringing in the wilds.
I
think
see.
The wilds can be adjusted back to a higher pH as well and brought into the higher pH, but I think it has to be done over time.
Yeah.
Yes, a very slow process. So, Tammy, I think you answered.
Like a month. I'm talking like a year, over a year.
Yes. So, discus can adapt to a higher pH, even though they're not originally designed for it. They can adapt slowly, and I've seen some of my friends break discus on pH of 7.5 or 8. And if you look at some of the farms in Asia, some in German, like Stinker, they raise their discus in a higher pH, so they're used to it. And if the fish can slightly adapt, just slowly over time they can adapt. Some people have mixed sources very gradually, also over a year, and then you don't tend to have these acute onset of symptoms like the discus plague or whatever people say it
Right.
is.
Right. I love the way she does the discus plague because I do not like calling it that.
Me neither. Yeah.
I really noticed that because I absolutely cannot stand it because there was a discus plague and it was most likely viral and it did wipe out a lot of fish. But what we see now is cross contamination, is not the plague.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
Divana, my pH is 8.5. So
Wow.
you have somebody with an even higher pH. So, Terry, what is your
8.5.
I'm 7.4.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Terry shipped me some fish. As a matter of fact, I went up a few weeks ago and brought some home. And I brought them in, I acclimated their temperature, and then I threw them into the tank. And we have no issues with it whatsoever. I don't like to drip acclimate because of ammonia and that sort of thing, especially when they're shipped. But even
Long periods.
Yeah, 7.4 to 8.5, I do drop a flop. I take them from the bag, dump them into a net, and just throw them in the tank. And
Right.
they have
Wow.
absolutely none.
I do
Bigger
the same
fish.
thing.
Yeah, Carrie
I mean,
does.
bigger fish.
They just do drop and flop. I know you do drip acclimation on yours.
Yeah, I'm always safe because I've done what you've done, and sometimes the fish were fine, and other times the fish were
Things
not
like
fine.
that.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'd rather just be safe.
I think everything that I've brought in, we've done just a pop and drop. And just put them straight in the tank.
Well, there's I so much to explain, and I have to do it with these people that I ship fish to, but you really, really have to explain it and put it in kind of where they understand it. Yeah, you don't want to do plop and drop if your tank's set at 88 degrees and the fish just came in with FedEx on a cold winter day and the water in the bag's like 79 or something. That's just a shock. So you kind of got to like explain that to them, and like you guys are saying, but definitely check things. Make sure you check the pH, check ammonia, check nitrates, and things like that. Before you do it. I mean, it's easily done, and a lot of people can get away with it. And sometimes you can get cracked on it, and that's just sometimes it's just something's not right with what happened with either the shipper or the tank itself that you're going to place the fish in. So it can happen, but for the most part, it's a pretty easy method and it works pretty well. I mean, we would do saltwater fish, wild caught. Well, they're not wild caught. Well, they were wild caught, but they were brought from another facility after being acclimated, and we would bring them into the shop, and we would make sure salinity was right, all the parameters were right, and we would do the same thing with all the saltwater fish. Yellow tangs, blue tangs, angels, lots of different firefish. And we just boom, 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 right out the bag, right into the water, made sure temperature was real close and everything was close, and really had no problems doing that with the saltwater fish either. So, yeah, it can be done, definitely.
Kevin, I have actually been trying to get that to work. I can't seem to switch over to my headset because the battery was dead on the transceiver, and I have got that charged and back on, but I can't seem to switch over to it. I'll try even one more time to get that switched over because I'm actually using the computer and it's uncomfortable to sit close to the computer right now. No, the only reason I mentioned the plop and drop is I know that you do the drip acclimation. I have nothing against drip acclimation, but just to let you know that it is possible as long as you flood the bags, get the temperature to where it needs to be with the tank and that sort of thing. That plop and drop is also a good way to do it.
I've seen it with bigger fish. People do that, yeah, and they don't have any issues.
And
I've
being
got two friends here that do the same.
If you're actually going from a higher pH to a lower, let's say you're buying from Terry and his pH is 7.4, but you've got 0.5 pH, you do need to drip acclimate that.
Yes.
Anytime
Good point,
the
Tammy.
pH is going down. So
Yes,
that's something to keep in mind.
I've actually cheated. I've been a little bit lazy sometimes, where I would take fish that had like a 0.2 pH difference, and then you would chuck them into the tank, and then they were okay. You can see they were a little bit, they were a little bit irritated, but you chuck that. But I agree. If you've got a more than a 0.5, 0.6 difference in pH, be careful, and you start playing a little bit.
Right. But going up in pH usually isn't as bad as going down in pH. So
Right.
that's also something to keep in mind. And something that people don't do when they get new fish of any kind, you need to run your tank, get it set up, and you need to check your pH in your tank, but you also need to check your pH in your tap water because there may be a difference between your tank water and your tap water. And that may cause pH swings when you're doing water changes. So while
That
we're
definitely will happen. Yep.
but I'm glad that Divana has joined us today because like I said, I saw the videos and I was like, man, she's a girl after my own heart.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's difficult sometimes to run it like a business.
Right.
When you love the discus so much, that was one of my strong points and my weaknesses.
Mine
Is
too.
that I love them so much. You don't just want to manhandle them
Right.
like pieces or stock always. And then the only cure for that was if I say, okay, I've got my personal fish, they're my boys and my girls,
Mhm.
and the rest is to sell. You know,
Right.
small or big. And when you buy fish and resell it, for example, I'm not as attached to it. When it's my kids that I've raised and then you sell them, it's also like, I put all this effort into it and then
Right. I totally understand that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
I hate seeing them upset when you move them from one tank to another tank and they just completely hide. And some of my fish I would give fin rubs. I could actually touch them, play with them, and burn them, and call them, and they wouldn't do that anymore. I moved them. They're like really pissed off with me.
Mine have
These
just
guys
gotten
know.
especially the ones that are my 150 that keeps.
Beautiful.
Oh wow, look at them. Oh.
Gotten used to me now.
Mommy.
I brushed them like
You
that the
hungry?
other day. I was wiping the tank off, and they were just sitting in front of my hand while I was wiping. They did exactly what yours are doing.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you stuck with discus. I'm so glad you stayed with it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something about them. They're really
Yeah.
different, I think at first I thought I was in love with the color or the shape. And they are elegant and they are an upper class fish, if I can call it that. And they're really beautiful. But I think it's their character that got me, the way that they interact with me. I don't know, for my psychology, it's really good for me.
Yes.
I was really unhappy at some point in my life. And then my dad got four discus. That's how we started, if you don't mind, if I just say so quickly. But he got four discus, brown discus. And they had discus in the 1980s when they got married, but a heater failed and they boiled to death. Then he got new ones down 2011, 2012. I was quite unhappy and I was studying and I didn't know what to do. And then he got promoted, he went away for work. And then he said, well, Elise, take care of my fish. I said, yeah, okay, I will. And they started developing the color, turquoise color. And then I was intrigued. I was like, wow, that's really beautiful.
Right.
And then when they really get to know you and they come to you and they hide from the strangers, I was like, yo, that's awesome. And then when they started breeding, I was hooked.
Hooked.
My friend
Yes.
Young is here. I have not seen him say anything. And I
That's
just
funny
mentioned
that
him
you brought
just a
it
little
up.
while ago.
So young here. Geelong's discus.
Yeah, he is here, but he retracted the message, so I don't see it.
We were ignoring them.
Kevin, you can actually age your water before you do water changes. That's what a lot of people do when have a pH swing out of the tap. And I don't, are you guys seeing the chat? He has 10.5
Yes.
pH out of the tap. Holy crap.
Oh, I'm not seeing the chat. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, he has 10.5 out of the tap, and then it's 6 after a day or two. That is a
Sure.
huge swing.
Oh, I see him now.
Wow.
Kevin, does your pH swing after you added the water? Like in the tank you're keeping, is your pH swinging then? Because if it's still swinging, it's an issue. But if you can get it stable when it's aging, that's good.
That is a huge swing. I've never seen a swing like that.
Yeah, that's a huge swing.
10.5. Well, I've never seen 10.5 pH either. So that's huge. But I do know a lot of people have, like mine, 8.5 out of the tap, and then it drops down to like 7.3 or something like that. But that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky that my pH is run about 7.4, 7.5. And then when it's done aging, it drops to about 7.2. And then when you add it into the tanks, then with time, with the bioload, it pulls down the pH a little bit.
Yes.
Right.
It stays
Also,
pretty stable.
change the water pH as well. I'm not sure exactly how that works since I've not had a plant before. But I do know that there is a way that the plants affect the water, and it can affect the pH of the water. So that's something I'm still looking into. I'm still learning, y'all. It's a constant process. So since I've never had planted tanks, I do need to learn about them.
Weeds. They're weeds.
So Young wants to know how many years you've been into discus.
I discovered the discus, well, like I said, when my dad had them. I made a painting for him before we got this for discus, 2011, 2012, around about there. So it's almost 10 years that I know about the discus. I think about 8 or 9 years ago we got our first discus. And then I've been breeding discus only for about 4 or 5 years now.
Right.
I've been breeding them. So I'm still pretty green and new.
I would say not. I'd say you're a fast learner.
Me too.
If you're kind of obsessed with them, then you watch amazing breeders like Suyan, from
Yes.
Geelong and Phuong Nam.
Best discus.
And I actually,
Oh my gosh. Absolutely
Yeah.
love discus.
yeah. And I also discovered Rudy Wagner from Europa Discus Center about 7 years ago, and I've been following him since. Been stalking him. And it's, everyone presents discus a different way. And everyone portrays discus differently, how they see discus and how they love discus.
Right.
Yeah. I think we're just obsessed.
Yeah, it's a disease. It's an addiction. it's all of that.
Yeah.
Once you
Yeah.
have and experience them, because they're totally different than other fish. I've had lots of different species, and there's not one like discus. I haven't
Yeah,
had
it's their language. They've got a unique language. You can see when they're not happy with a partner. Or you can see, that one's flirting with that one
Yeah.
on the other side of the tank.
Right.
You can see this one's vibrating its tail, like up and down like this. Then I know, okay, that fish is not feeling well. Or the dorsal fin goes
Green. Yeah.
spikes like that. Or the fish
Right.
goes dark. Stress bars or mood bars.
Yes.
One of the easiest ways to read them. And then you can actually see how the behavior changes as the brood matures, that they are parent raising. So you can see how in the beginning they're very aggressive and they knock you away from the glass, and after a while they're a little bit more calm.
Yeah.
The way that they shake, to say, okay,
Get back over
wife,
here.
you take the kids now to school. Okay, Dad, you take them to the creche now. I love that. I love the language of discus.
Right.
Yes.
I love
You said that earlier. You go, oh, it might have been color, and that's me. I like color. That's why I got in the guppies. color. I mean, I like butterflies, flowers, and all that stuff because of color. But I think you're right. It's a little different with the discus. It's not so much the color.
No, I don't think it is either. I think it's something more. Maybe the
That's,
personality,
yeah,
because they do
that's
have.
a challenge.
It is a challenge. Absolutely.
You never get tired of seeing a new fresh batch that's attached to
Oh
their
yeah,
parents. You're like, yes, that's successful. Oh, they didn't eat their eggs, or wow.
right.
Or in my case, wow, they actually hatched this time. We have a discus that either the male gets tired, doesn't want to, or water being hard, and even the RO doesn't change the pH. So they're actually breeding in the 8.5 pH at low TDS. And
Right.
so we do have to do the formaldehyde and that sort of thing. But we had a real patch with one of our bears not that long ago. They're still growing out.
Tell me, I wanted to ask you, what do you feed your discus that they're able to breed in a high pH like that?
One of the things that you don't feed, or maybe you do feed it, I can't remember, but I was watching one of your videos and you talked about the insect bites and that sort of thing, but we actually feed the beef heart. We feed granulates, we feed flakes, we feed brine shrimp, we feed bloodworms. And I do have some bug bites, and I do have the vibro bites, as I think we just do a good variety to make sure that they're getting the vitamins and minerals that they need from the food.
I think variety is the key, because the gut is linked to the slime coat a lot. So people are so focused on breeding discus and is my water correct? Is my pH correct? You know, is my TDS okay? Is my conductivity okay? When they're not paying enough attention to nutrition. And you know, even if I think that's also partially why people are successful in breeding with a higher pH is because of good nutrition and a variety of diet. If you're targeting all angles of what a discus needs, and this slime coat composition changes as well. It slightly changes when they're parent raising or when they're not raising, when they're in cycle, when they're off cycle.
Right.
And the good nutrition is just so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good
That
gut health.
goes hand in hand with the clean environment, the healthy environment. It's the nutrition. If you have one or the other that's not good, you're lowering the immune system of the fish. So that is always something that I try to tell people, that you need to have a varied diet. One of the people I saw posted in one of the groups that they had white poop, and it looked like normal poop. Honestly, it did not look like that fish was sick. It was just a light colored poop. And I asked him, I said, "What are you feeding?" And he gave one food that he was feeding. I'm thinking, that's probably the problem. You need to add variety to the food. You can't feed just one food. But of course, everybody else had, this medicine, that medicine, the other medicine. So he probably treated it with something. But
Yeah.
in my opinion, it was diet that was the issue, not a sickness or a parasite or anything.
Right.
Yeah, it was about 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, I had a 22 centimeter female. She was lovely. She was a huge turquoise female. But she died at the age of 3 years old. I mean, that's way too young.
Right.
And she had the thickest forehead, and I bought her big, but I fed quite a monotonous diet back then, and it was mostly dry pellets and a little bit of brine shrimp here and there. But I didn't really pay attention to proper nutrition. And then when she passed away, I was curious to see, what happened, because you can't see externally what's going on. But when I dissected her, you could actually see the cysts or like liver damage from and I sent some of the guts in through a friend of mine or someone that helped me a lot with discus market, the toy. I really look up to him. He's another breeder in South Africa. And he actually also told me about gut health and how they discovered like microscopic scrapes inside the gut lining of fish and how cysts form and all of that. It's when you feed cheap quality foods or malnutrition or a monotonous diet that you tend to also get complications quite early with fish, I think.
Wow. Very interesting. Very interesting.
That is very interesting. I mean, that is something that even from the beginning when we had the virus, and I hooked up with the doctors down in Florida. The very first thing she wanted to know was what our diet was. And when I told her, which it was a varied diet, it was flakes and granules and the beef heart mix that we make. And the first thing she wanted to know was what's in the beef heart. She said, well, I want you to add this, and I want you to do this. And, so she started trying to help us change the beef heart to boost immune system. So that's been something that we have been really focusing on is with the beef heart mix, making sure that we have all the nutrients in there that are needed.
Yeah.
Like she's recommended. So.
Variety. Definitely key.
Or live foods as well. If you don't always have variety, live foods works very well.
I love live food.
Live food is like close to nature as you can get.
I'm a big live food fan. In the summer, mosquito larvae, black worms, still use a lot of bloodworms. Definitely. I agree.
Mosquito larvae. When I fed my females when I fed the discus a lot of mosquito larvae, the females, they get really fat.
Yeah.
And this is something I wanted to ask you guys, because you know a lot as well, is what I've seen before is when my discus breed too much, the females, they tend to lose a little bit of weight, or they stop growing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I would agree with you on that. I think when the females, I've actually had females when they start to breed, they're pretty much done growing. I mean, they might thicken up a little bit, put a little more size on them, but it's going to take a lot more time for them to do that. I'm not sure if it's so much a diet with them or if it's more genetics. Because I've seen some very big females, and I've also seen very small females. But usually once they start laying eggs, I think that's pretty much the size they're gonna, pretty much be. They might put on a little more girth, a little more size. It's gonna take a long time. So I do agree with that. That would happen. Yes.
I had one that laid eggs, and she went through a growth spurt right. It just seemed like right then. She didn't lay eggs again after that first time, and then she laid the second time, and she didn't have any growth after that second time.
Yeah.
They spend a lot of their reserves
to
produce the eggs. And something that I also didn't know is that when you medicate fish and they carry eggs, the ovaries, I must actually see if I can find those research papers. I've only seen it in 2 research papers that when they dissected fish that were medicated, some of the eggs absorbed some of the medication.
Right.
And sometimes I think, maybe you can even stunt your fish with medications as well.
For sure. It's just like just like plants. Anything you fertilize your plants or give your plants, it's in the plant. It goes symptomatic, and the same thing works with medications and fish. It will definitely go symptomatic into the fish, and take some time to release itself, whatever you're using. Definitely.
Yeah.
Carrie Francis wants to know if the turquoise strain genes are dominant or recessive.
Turquoise?
Yeah.
Definitely. Dominant.
Yeah.
Dominant. Definitely.
I had to ask you because he specifically wanted you to answer that one.
He's just messing with me.
Yeah. Anything Geelong says. Yeah. I really love Su Yang's Super Pantheron discus. Some of those patterns. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm fangirling a little bit. Oh my god.
I was gonna buy some. They're way too much money right now. So much money.
But you know what? The breeders work so hard.
Yes.
Work so hard to create these strains, and I believe they can charge what they want to charge.
Yes.
A lot of people don't agree with me because they're like, no, you got to make these things accessible for everyone to enjoy. But if you work so hard on something,
right,
you don't just want anyone to copy your strain.
Right.
You don't want anyone to copy your patent or your design.
Right. Well, I used to do snakes back in the day when we first started coming out with like albino corn snakes. And the way we did it is we wouldn't sell any females. It would only be males. And you would do that for 2 or 3 years until you flooded the market. And eventually people would start releasing the females. But yeah, I understand that. Definitely.
Yeah.
I would be the same way. If I created my own little strain and came out with something, you would have to for all that work you've done.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It would probably only last a couple of years, just like the Pantera. It's gonna, give it a couple more years. Everybody's gonna have them. They'll be everywhere. Easy access to them, just like what the Blue Diamond went through and every other new strain that's come out.
Yes, but once they get mass produced, the quality tends to go down a bit. Yeah, and it's the breeders know what they're doing, and they
Yeah.
keep the best
Well,
for
right,
themselves.
Yep.
Exactly what happened. So
Get
let's
rid of
say
the rest.
if I did make this purchase for these Panterias, more than likely they're brothers and sisters. So then I would be inbreeding brother and sisters, not knowing how many times they've already been inbred and passed down from other breeders, from other farms. And you're exactly right. That's exactly what happens. Definitely.
Yeah. So it would be amazing to have some of those fish.
Yeah, it would be.
Kale Discus Farm, Genomes Discus. The posts recently, some of the strains I think we've done, we've got another amazing individual in South Africa. He lives in Cape Town. His name is Professor Dirk Belstedt. He does 100% barrel-free fish, and he's German as well. And he imported from Alexander Pivovarsky
Oh, wow. Good.
some of those exceptional red turquoise.
Yes, very.
Some of the shapes and maintaining the body shape or getting the right body shape also takes time
I'd
and
be
effort.
interested to see pictures from those. I may have to try to find them.
Beautiful fish. Definitely.
I mean, I've seen P-Rouse fish. But
Great
I'd like
job
to
on
see
those.
them in and out.
I think in one of my books you can actually see, those perfect body shape. And a lot of people look at the color, but I look at body shape a lot.
Me too.
Fish has got good body shape. There's no scoliosis. There's enough space for the ovaries and stuff. Then you're good to go.
Yeah.
Right.
And I learned some time ago. I spoke to Gabe Posada from Jack Watley's Farms, and he advised me some time ago. He said you should never try corrective breeding. Where you try and breed out an error. If you,
Right.
you start with good fish from the start.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Yes. Many of the traits are passed on. Dorsal fin, just not so much a deformality, but just a different shape, a higher hard ray than the rest of the hard rays, things like that. The female will pass on a lot of that, especially if you're inbreeding brothers and sisters or inbreeding the same line. Two bad fish, I agree, do not make good fish. Tammy. Go, Tammy. Quiet.
I'm not going there.
I see someone in the chat says for Carrie, turquoise strain genes are they dominant or recessive?
Yeah, that was
Francis.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what Tammy's thinking right now.
Yeah. I'm behaving though. YouTube is not the platform. No.
But you
you're
can't.
doing such
Again,
great
you
things,
can't.
Divana,
So
really. I enjoyed the videos that you did for sure. Carrie sat down and watched them too, and you have done some amazing work.
Thanks. I've got a lot to learn. Still.
The
more I learn, the more I realize what I don't know.
You're right.
Oh my,
It's a vicious cycle.
You know a lot for only being in it 10 years. You know a lot, and
Really?
it takes some people a while to just figure these things out. So I'd say you've come a long way, and you know you know more than just the basics, definitely.
Yes.
So I think
I,
you're doing something.
yeah, trial and error is the best way to learn with experience. But I have also been helped a bit along the way.
We all have. Everybody
We
has.
don't have massive commercial farms like in Malaysia. Some guys in Germany or America or South America or the wilds that you can just pop in and visit here and learn about the systems, learn about biosecurity and fish and all that. We basically just have to Google and try and figure out what everyone else is doing and then
Yeah.
Right.
figure out our way.
Well, that's how it was for me when I started out. There was no forums yet, no internet yet, and so I would go to Steve McDonald
Yeah.
or Max Discus, and I wanted to answer. I felt obligated, so I felt like I had to buy fish from him just so I could ask him 3 or 4 questions and get them answered. So I kept buying fish, answer some questions. Here, I'll buy some more fish. He answer a couple more questions, and that's kind of how I went about it at first. So yeah,
You paid for your school, yeah.
yes, yes,
Paid your tuition fees, yeah.
yes.
I've always done
Yeah.
research, and I think Carrie knows that too. I'm just a research person. But when I decided to start breeding, I grabbed Carrie.
Both of you ladies are good researchers. I mean, you've taken it to a level where it needs to be, especially nowadays. So much is going on. Bravo. I'm old and lazy now. I don't want to take it any further. I just want to enjoy my fish and breed some beautiful fish and show them off, and that's all I want to do now. And help people too, but that's about it.
Don't get him wrong, Divana. I sent him all the research papers that I find interesting so he can read them, and I make him read them so I can talk about it.
Yes. Well, I used to import discus and I used to sell them. I had a website and I was called Great Lakes Discus, and I did that. Yeah, I did that for a long time, but I mean,
Wow.
it's hard, me being a picky person like yourself. I'm all about shape, body shape, and size. It wasn't ever so much about the color, but for me to try to sell, I'd buy 100 fish, 200 fish, 50 are good, 50 are okay, and then 25 are not so good. Well, I still had to sell those fish. And, knowing what I knew that, this fish is never going to grow. This fish is never going to amount to anything. Now I'm supposed to sell it to a new person just starting out. I know they're going to fail with this fish, but at the same time, I still need to sell it. So that was hard for me, and that's kind of why I got out of that whole deal. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't sell those inferior fish to newer people that I knew would fail with them. So yeah, I was like, I'm done. I'm just gonna breed, and that's it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's part of our mission, is try and get the best stock that you can.
mhm.
My intention would never be to try and mass produce somebody else's unique strain, or I wouldn't want to do that. But I just want everyone to enjoy God's creation the way it was intended to be, to enjoy fish the best that they can be, and do it responsibly.
Right.
You can make profit from it, of course. Of course you're allowed to. If you can do it, do it.
Right.
But don't just put money first and
Right.
use the animals.
Right.
Yeah.
The
I
animals
agree.
have ours, absolutely. Hi,
That's what
Don.
makes me so mad.
Yes. Me too.
Because we get the tail end of the quality this side.
I'm
So
always mad.
it's really,
I always say
yeah.
the first thing that a new person in discus needs to do is they need to do research on the water parameters and how to keep the water clean and that sort of thing. But on top of that, they need to start with a good supplier. Not just a supplier, but a good supplier. Somebody that knows what they're doing, somebody that's importing quality fish so that they have a better start on it.
Right.
That is absolutely number one.
Yeah, the more and more you about discus, the more you see. Just buy the healthiest you can. Start with.
Right.
Alan was asked if I could explain how to set up a quarantine tank for your fish without having an established filter, using just prime and water changes. You're asking specifically how I do my quarantine tank, because I think everybody knows my quarantine tanks are sterile until the day that the fish come in. Well, they're still sterile. 2 days or 3 days before the fish come, we put water in the tank and we set the tank up and we let it run. The day before the fish come in, we do a water change on the tank. Get there, and then we add the fish straight to the tank. For the time that it takes, which is not that long at my house because of my pH, for the time it takes for that tank to cycle, we add prime after a 50 to 75% water change, and sometimes even more, every day. We do those water changes and add the prime to protect the
Excuse me.
Once the tank is cycled, you don't have to do the daily. You can switch to every other day or every third day. That's just essentially how that's processed.
That's pretty much how I do it too. Same thing.
But I don't want them exposed to bacteria the minute that they come into the house.
Right.
So I want it to be sterile from the start. I think that's the safest way to go about it. There's too much risk of cross-contamination if you take a pre-seeded sponge and put it in your tank.
Unless you're going to wait 5 months. Well, ideally would be a month before.
Right. That was actually a good question, and I appreciate you asking that question.
Yep.
Actually, I think the first time somebody asked for a detail on how to do that. Yeah, see, Kim does the same. Crown Tail came in. Hi, Crown Tail. Hi, Donnie. Welcome to the stream.
Crown Tail, what's up?
Metro Man.
Hi, Donnie.
Awesome. Somebody had asked to join the stream, and I don't know if he's...
Yeah, I can jump out. Let him jump in.
No, they can jump in even if you're here, Terry. I can have, I think, up to 10 in the stream.
Oh, okay.
And if they're still here and want well, matter of fact, I can go ahead and just share the link if anybody, because I think maybe they were wanting to ask questions.
Yeah.
And if they want to just come up and ask questions, that would be fine too. I've never really, I mean, I tried to do it last week. That was the first time I'd done it. So.
I know. I thought I was going into the chat. I didn't know it was coming up on here.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
So sorry for jumping in.
Oh, you're fine, Terry. Did I send you the link for it or?
No, I did it off Divana's. She had a little post on the forum, and I just copied hers. I'm like, oh, this is totally not the same.
She did it straight to the, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So when I seen it, I was like, oh no, this is wrong. This is bad. And I started clicking stuff, and then it worked. I'm like, I don't know. This is all new to me. But I think it's pretty awesome. I like the screen.
Yeah, this is way easier than Zoom.
Yeah.
That's what I was telling you a couple weeks ago when we were talking about it. This is way easier than Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I think I should do a host live stream as well and just add all the pictures of what I used to have, because now you can't really see my fish are hiding because of all the equipment and the lights. They don't really come in the background like I wanted them to. But just to show a bit of the fish that I used to have. Blue diamonds, some of the original yellow-eyed blue diamonds.
Yeah.
And all the fish I used to have. Maybe I'll do that sometime.
That'd be awesome.
I'm still recovering. I mean, it's...
Oh, yeah?
It was a lot of... I had about... I had many fish. I lost 34 discus pairs. Not that much. Okay, it's a lot for South Africa, but it's small in commercial terms.
Right.
But it was about 34 discus pairs I lost in 4 or 5 days.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'd be breeding canaries right now.
I'll tell you, we have somebody here with us today that's picking up some fish, and I think they're still out there going through the fish room. Terry, I told you, 11 o'clock or 11:30 that he was here.
Oh, yeah.
And they're still going through the fish room. He's trying to pick out his fish, so they're probably watching the live stream as well while they're doing it. But I'm actually hoping he takes most of the fish room with him.
Yeah, I just sold 5 of my nicest ones I didn't want to sell, but you running out of room, and when someone comes over and you don't have to pack and ship, you have to do it. Just have
Well,
to.
I've got some of Carrie's fish. Matter of fact, I had some of his heckles that I ended up selling about 6 months
I
ago.
know, get her.
Oh, Heckles.
They're doing really, really
Rolls
well.
Royce of wilds, in my opinion. Them
Well,
and Icas. Oh,
they were domestic. They were domestic cross.
They were domestic.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
And they're doing really, really well. And I've got some of his blue diamonds, and they're absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just doing an amazing job of growing big.
Yeah.
And a few weeks ago, I went up to Michigan to visit with Kim, and I brought back, what was it, 6 of Carrie's snake skins.
Yeah.
And my God, those things are monsters. Absolute monsters. Gorgeous.
I yell at mine every day. My wife works at home right now, so she works in the fish hatchery. So we set her up a desk and a computer, and I have to yell at mine every day because I open the glass lid and I keep my water level real high. So they all just run and splash me after I get dressed for work, and I got flake food all over me because I'll put the flake food in and just all over. And you think I would correct it by now and like stand on the side, and I keep making the same mistake every morning. And my wife finally, will you do something about that? You keep doing the same thing every morning. And I'm like, oh, yeah, but the snakeskins they're vicious. I don't know why. They're a little different for some reason. The
Yeah.
attitude.
I also had snakeskins for a
Autumn
while,
snake.
and I also find they're quite aggressive feeders. I don't know,
Yeah, they are very.
like angels.
Yep, yeah. Yep, I don't get it.
Speaking of fish that come to you, what would you say? What advice would you guys have for people that struggle with scared discus?
Anything that floats on top of the water. I kid you not, they will spook themselves anytime that there's water, that food floating on top of the water. It spooks them.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just think, tanks around the corners are bad. If you're going to walk around the corner and they're going to
Yes.
catch you real quick, bad. Lower tanks, your legs move much faster. That's
Yeah.
going to be bad.
Absolutely.
The bottom of the tank not being painted or covered, that sometimes can give reflection. That sometimes has a reaction with not all of them, but certain fish will act funny towards that. And that's pretty much the 3 things I would probably do to avoid it.
Yeah, my breeding pairs are elevated. They're on top.
Yes.
Most of my breeding pairs are on top. Although I've seen in a Heiko Blair's book, I've got volume 2, he visited lots of the breeders. They even put breeding pairs on the floor that would breed, but in most cases, discus that are mid-level, I've seen it, especially if they're new, quite skittish. They don't get used to you, and you appear quite big to them.
Right.
So I tend to put my breeding pairs like chest level or up.
Same
That's where I
here.
put them, and then they're also more successful with fry attachment. If they don't release as much stress hormone, cortisol in the water, they then they're more calm and they're less skittish.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but a moonlight during discus
Oh, yeah.
at night.
Yep.
Guys
Yep.
put moonlights as well.
Yes. I do that. Keep a night light on all the time when there's fry about to attach, for sure.
We just lower the water level and we keep a night light on at night as well.
Yeah.
I find they're less skittish then overall.
Yeah.
But it's strange because, in nature where they come from, the light is really dim and they're hiding between the mangroves and it's very filtered light.
Right.
So sometimes if breeding pairs are quite skittish or fish in general, I just leave a moonlight on at night. I find it also better.
Kim!
Hey.
Breeding pairs are
I know I look
skittish or fish in
crazy.
general, I just leave a moonlight on at night. I find it also better.
okay. I look crazy too.
Hey, hey. I know I look crazy.
Okay, somebody's giving feedback.
Okay, I look crazy too.
Hey, hey.
Uh-oh, we got a bird.
Let me make sure. Yeah, it's definitely him.
Shame on you.
Can you turn your volume down on your computer? That's better.
Shame on you.
Could be from the speakers
Somebody said it may be the TV.
or the television. Yeah.
I don't think Kim's live anymore, is she?
Okay, she's muted herself.
She's frozen. She is
No,
frozen.
she muted herself.
Kim, turn off the TV and try it. There she is.
Okay, we got another person that wanted to join us up here.
Hello, Discus Doc. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Was not sure how audio was.
Okay, I'm gonna turn my TV down.
I love seeing fish tanks in the room, like all around. I
Yeah,
love
that's
seeing
cool.
tanks all around. And my bedroom was like that as well at some point.
My old house was like that. I had a
My room is somewhat of a little bit of a mess because all of my available space is tanks. I really want to get a big enough tank. I want to move that tank out and get a bigger rack so I can actually get a bigger tank because I do want Discus, but not yet.
Why?
I don't have a big enough tank.
You can do it. Move all that.
I want to. I want to. I need to get a rack. And have 275s on the bottom. That would be awesome.
Yeah. You could put 6 adults in a 75.
Yeah, that's what I'd love to do 275s on the bottom, and then have the 55 and maybe a few 140 or 20. But I'd like to do a rack of 3 tanks. I just haven't done it yet.
Lumber's going up.
I'm not lumber. I don't see very well, so building it would not be a good smart for me.
You can do it.
I think if I did it, I'd go to Home Depot and get one of the racks there that they have.
Oh, you mean the steel racks?
Yeah, what the steel? I think there's one that like I forget how many pounds it is, but it will hold quite a lot of weight, and so I was thinking about getting one of those.
No, I know what you're talking about. That would work.
You gotta get Discus, Kevin. You gotta do it.
I want to. I really want to. I need to get a rack and an RO unit. I have a bucket right here. I just need a rack and an RO unit. Those are the 2 things I want to get. And then I'm gonna get. If it kills me, I'm gonna get Joe to send me 2 of his Discus at least.
Once you get Discus, you never go back. I've had quite a few clients that would take breaks from keeping Discus, due to relocation or wipeouts or whatever. And then they always come back to Discus, always. So once the bug has bitten you, it will always stay with you. Trust me, and they're worth it.
I've always wanted Discus, but unfortunately, all my tanks are in my room right now. So in order to do it, I need to get a rack. Because I swear, I have stuff all over. Usually I have stuff all over my floor. Because all my available storage space, I have tanks on. everywhere.
You should
I have
see.
tanks on it.
You should see how I've started. It was the same. We started personal space in the house, and it was just clutter everywhere because you'd start moving away shelves and squeezing and making a plan just to get more tanks.
Kim Walker. So it's either you have YouTube on, or if you go into cam and mic settings on the computer, there's under audio, there's a noise cancellation. Here, do you mind if I share my screen really quickly?
No, go ahead. I'm going to step away for just a minute and we'll be right back.
Oof. There's my camera back.
That was bad. I made it work.
Carrie,
Hold on, I'm sorry. Okay.
there we go. Yeah. So Carrie, how many tanks have you got? Discus now.
I only have probably about 17 tanks. Yeah.
Decent amount. Yeah.
Mine are all big tanks, so we're talking 150s. I have like 3 150s, 2 125s, 2 75s, 2 40s, and 4 55s, and then I got a couple 29s for breeders. I'm only doing a couple pairs right now.
So you breed them in a 29?
Yes, 29-gallon tanks. I breed them in. Once they attach and I'm feeding them baby brine and they get to a good size, they will grow faster with the parents if you can keep up on feeding and taking care of them and helping the parents feed them. And then from there, I try to move them to, depending on the hatch out, they'll go right to a 75. And if it's a big hatch out, I will move them to the 125 and maybe put a divider in and keep them locked in on one side.
Yeah, I've done that before, where I would actually breed discus in smaller tanks, especially if it was a lighter color, and it would be more difficult for the fry to see them because the fry have very weak eyesight.
Yes.
So I tend to be more successful with lighter color breeding pairs by putting them in smaller cubes.
Right.
But then you can run into the issue, which I think Kevin's also concerned about, is where they can actually eat too much of the parents' slime coat. So you got to keep up feeding them with the brine shrimp and all of that.
Yes.
As well. Yeah.
Yeah, I did albinos that way. A lot of the smaller tanks, like the 20 gallons, everything painted blue, the bottom, the sides, the backs, just the viewing area was left open. And I did real good with the albinos attaching that way, the smaller tanks.
Yeah.
I'm reading chat and I see that Joe Petroman 1185 says he raises the babies in a 65 gallon and then they go into the 90 gallon tank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a lot of people do different things. I'm a big believer in bigger tanks, less chance of mistakes, high bioload, easier to clean in my opinion. Grow faster. If everything's good, I can feed more. Water quality's good. I can keep pounding away at the food. Sometimes I race to grow them up. I don't know why I do that. I will like put posts up here and there on the boards like, hey, these guys are 2.5 months old, and a lot of people go, oh, you're crazy. How can they be that old? But yeah, I mean, I've always been a big believer in giving them lots of room and lots of good water quality.
If you can.
That's why I can pound them with food, yeah.
As a believer in consistency, once again, the bigger your volume, the more consistent, the more stable your parameters would stay in a bigger volume.
Right. That's a big rule in saltwater too. Reef tanks. The bigger the tank, the more stable.
Very funny, Crowntail. I think Crowntail asked you guys, could you share if you do artificially raise the fry or other methods for raising fry?
I've artificially raised them maybe a few times. I'm not a big fan of it. It's a lot of work. Just not anymore what I'm into. But yeah, I mean, I've done it with just egg yolk and spirulina powder. Artificial plankton and rotifer works pretty well.
Okay.
After, like I said, 3 or 4 days, you can actually get them on live brine, and if you flood the baby hatchery with, the Chinese baby brine, the smaller descendant of brine, most of them will start taking to it. It's just a matter of putting so much in there that you're able to keep the water quality clean at the same time and be able to manage all that at the same time. But yeah, I mean, it can be done. It's just a lot of work. I've done it, but I refuse to anymore. It'd have to be a Pantera for me to do that.
Yeah, you have to go through the Pantera for sure, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
Crown Tail Half Moon, I've done artificially for 7 years now, six,
oh
seven
wow.
years. I've done it, and I understand what Carrie's means with its hard work, it's hard labor because it's like a newborn baby. You got to exchange
Yeah.
mixture every once in a while. And Jack Watley's discus was one of the guys that contributed to pioneering raising discus artificially,
Hmm.
and he did the egg yolk story and added spirulina and probiotics and all of that. But he used an antibacterial powder as well that would prolong the use of prolong the
Nice.
life of egg mixture, so that you don't have to change it as often. I think he
Right.
prolonged it to 46 hours, 4 to 6
Huh.
hours.
Yeah.
And I did something similar, and I've raised quite a few discus that way successfully that would reach the same size as a parent raised discus.
Awesome.
The only thing that falls short with artificial raising, sorry guys, I'm getting carried away a bit, is that they fall short of certain hormones that they can't get from the parents, amino acids or whatever. So they would grow slower. So they would, in most cases, they would reach the same size as parent raised discus, but it just takes longer for them because they didn't get that boost. They didn't get that, all the antibodies from the parents right
Here.
away. And
Right.
yeah. So yes, I've done it. I've run my business on it because pairs that are successful, parent raising, you leave, very
Right.
convenient.
Mhm.
But pairs that did not or used to eat the eggs but are fertile, I would then take out and raise artificially.
Doesn't it sometimes take like 6 to 8 times before they do it right? Sometimes can it take like 6 times for them to successfully um, raise up their own fry? Because otherwise they'll eat them. But I thought it's usually like the first like 6 times that they might eat them, but usually they learn.
Yeah, so you'll get a lot of conflict. So you have people buying fish and then putting them in the tank, and they get babies just like that. So those people will jump in and say, "Oh yeah, I was successful the very first time." Well, really, the question should be from babies we raised ourselves. So we know they're young pairs. We know they just started pairing off and mating. Uh, so yeah, with fish like that I've bred myself and raised up, I would say yeah, it would take like 4, 5, 6, 7, sometimes 10 times before they get it right. Um, but at the same time, there are things that play a big role. The water quality, are they comfortable? Just because now you move them to a breeding tank, it's going to take them a while to adjust to that as well. So that could be, your male might still be spooked where your female's comfortable. So she's laying the eggs, but the male's still a little nervous and he's not having anything to do with it. So yeah, I think a lot has to do with getting them in their tank, their breeding tank, where they are going to stay for a majority of a long time breeding. Once they're comfortable, yeah, they're pretty successful. But yeah, I mean, anytime you move them, they're definitely going to take 5, 6, 7 times. But if you're buying like adult fish from someone else, yeah, I mean, it's possible once they're settled in, definitely they'll get it right the first time. Um, I've never had it happen that many times. It's mostly taken 5, 6 times for younger pairs that I've grown out to maturity to actually get it right. I believe it's a learning process and along with the instinct. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with that.
And then sorry, I didn't mean to take over, but
You're fine. Well, you're actually helping. Thank you.
I think George asked. He's having problems with fin rot on his discus. He's changing water every couple of days. Water quality is good. Temperature is 86 degrees. Any suggestions?
Stop changing water. Now, Tammy, go.
Add some salt. Sprinkle it on.
Yeah, I
And a
don't.
higher temperature. A higher temperature also encourages bacterial proliferation. I mean, bacterial growth.
Yeah,
So the
stimulates
higher your
it.
temperature is, the faster the bacteria multiply, but at the same time, it's also the faster the discus's white blood cells produce or to tackle the problem. But if you have a bacterial infection, then that could be, you know, raising
Right.
your temperature too high could be an issue. But
Yeah.
I think Tammy's right. Salt,
Yeah.
salt first. Salt. I agree with Tammy.
Yeah.
She's the doctor. Yeah, I agree with her.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I would. There you go. All three heads are better than one. Lower the temperature. Turn off the lighting. Ease up on the water change if the parameters are good, and start out adding some salt. And from there, you know,
Kim
hopefully
just
things
called
will
me
get
the
better.
salt queen, Carrie.
What's that?
Kim just called me the salt queen. And it's
Salt
funny,
queen.
we were sitting talking earlier before the stream, and me and my husband, and I said something about adding salt to the beta tank, and he said, "I just need to get you saltwater tanks." I'm like,
Right.
I'll keep my discus in it.
You're doing the wrong part of the hobby.
Well, that's so.
You're doing the wrong.
That's how we clean saltwater fish though, with fresh water. We would dip all the saltwater fish, angels, everything for body flukes. We'd dip them in fresh water, 3 to 5 minute baths, and you would watch them just fall off the fish.
Yeah. It's exactly the opposite for saltwater as it is for
Exactly.
freshwater.
Yep.
If you have saltwater fish, you dip them in freshwater. If you have freshwater fish, you dip them in saltwater.
Well, I would assume if you're changing their the environment, the fish, the whatever it is that's on them will change because freshwater and saltwater fish don't generally have the same diseases.
They have some of the same. Some of the bacteria and stuff can go from saltwater to freshwater,
Mm-hmm.
but things like the flagellates and some of the protozoa cannot go from saltwater to freshwater. So not everything is curable that way, but most things I think are. Most of the pathogens I think can be cured in that way.
Yeah, just like a saltwater stingray and a freshwater stingray. You
I think
have
bacteria is the only one that can really cross from salt to fresh.
right.
So, I mean, I'd have to look up every single one of them, but I would say majority cannot pass between that freshwater and saltwater.
Divana, it's snowing here right now.
You
snowing.
keep it, Carrie. Keep it. Keep it.
Wow, we
Carrie
never
keeps
get
it
snow
in
this side. It's
weather
quite
down here
rare.
to me.
I never get snow. Period. We never have white Christmas here.
I'm hearing all this
Christmas
noise.
vibes.
Oh, it's snowing.
That's awesome.
I'm in Cali, so we never get snow here.
Well, it's 70 here and beautiful outside. Absolutely gorgeous. So,
Where do you live?
now, keep in mind that in 2 days we will have winter. So,
Oh, okay.
'cause I think the high temperature Tuesday or Wednesday, the high temperature is supposed to be like 32. So we'll see. But we get those days, warm days.
Yeah, I miss it already.
Carrie lives up there in that snow.
Yeah.
Kim says all my pears raise their fry. Lucky Kim. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What they
What's your argument,
once they
Kim?
get to free swimming, they're fine.
Yeah, I think with discus that keep eating their eggs, if you guys don't mind me chipping in this part, which is quite a big problem worldwide. Is people with breeding pairs that eat their eggs. It's a huge issue. And I agree with Carrie where partially it's instinct, and I do believe you get bad moms or bad parents, bad dads. You get parents that just aren't compatible, or maybe
Right.
you removed the wrong two, or they weren't exactly compatible. I think instinct does go to some extent, and I think being able to spot or observe why they're not successful.
Right.
It's quite an art to read your discus, and sometimes there's one or two subtle signs why they don't want to breed, where they start fighting after breeding. That's quite a common problem as well.
Yeah.
So
I'm kind of just like with Kim too. I've never used egg cages or anything like that. I never had a problem with them eating the eggs. Every now and then I had a batch here or there eaten, but for the most part I never used egg cages, anything like that. I've been pretty good with always getting them to raise the fry. It might take 3 or 4 times here and there with certain pairs, and I think a pair that bonds on its own and actually pairs off on its own, those would be the best pairs for raisin fry.
yeah,
Um, I've force paired before, and it does work most of the time, but there is that compatibility with some of
yeah.
them, like even after the fry hatch, where, like you said, they were fighting. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree totally with all that.
Okay, just because I know that he's had this issue, what about the babies eating the slime coat? Have you like eating too much of the slime coat or eating
Oh,
through the slime coat?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So
It
yeah,
can
I mean,
happen,
when
absolutely.
that happens, that damages the parents. That will actually leave scars. It'll look
Yeah.
like a little car was driving through a racetrack all through the parent's fish, through the parent's body, and those fish will show scars for a while, if not permanent, depending how bad it was. But yeah, that's why a lot of breeders will try to use the baby prime third day, fourth day. I like to start on the third day, and I'll do it 2, 3 times a day, as many times as I can to help out.
Yeah.
Um,
The,
but
after, so, and you said after the third time? Or
well,
after the day?
after the third day of free swimming, I'll start using.
Yeah, once they go free
Oh, yeah.
swimming, yeah. We started, I think, on the 4th day of free swimming. Once they start swimming, we start feeding the baby brine shrimp.
It's mostly to help, not just with growth, but
Right.
like they say, it's to help with the slime coat, because what happens is from day 0 to day 10, you can see. I think Jack Watley has the original photos from his books. I got a whole stack of books here, by the way, down here, one of these, where he's actually shown a photo of the wrigglers. They have like a sucker mouth, right? And then when they become free swimming, then they're able to start eating off the parents' slime coat. After day 10, is normally we can start seeing these bites and marks if there's a lot of fry. And they've actually got little sore teeth. Little sore teeth, or they develop like little bits of teeth almost. Teeth is not the right word, but they
Uh,
develop a texture in their throat, hence the name Symphysodon as well. And that is often what causes the bite in the slime coat. And they call it a bite rate as well. Is the babies will eat a little bit and then they'll go away, and then they'll eat a lot at some point when they grow bigger and bigger and bigger,
Yes, bigger bites.
until they start venturing on their own and more independent.
Right.
But that middle phase is when you start seeing when they start biting a lot of the slime coat off. You
Like
can often see
little-
the adults will have, once again, they'll have a language. They'll say they'll clamp their fins, or they try and
Yeah.
get away. They start transferring the fry too frequently.
You know?
They bow down, yes. Yeah. And that's often your cues. But yeah, Kevin, it happens often, eh? It's a lot of work.
You can also
Gotta watch them, like kids,
Yes, you have
like
to keep it-
toddlers.
Yeah. There's parents that also don't produce enough slime coat, and if that happens, then they can get damage right from the beginning. It's all part of stuff that you gotta watch out for.
I think one of my friends, their discus one of the I think the male passed away because the babies ate too much of the slime coat.
Mm-hmm. So what happened?
Sure, that's fine.
Probably caused an infection through the epidermis of the fish after the slime
Yes.
coat was removed. Yes.
Like secondary infection.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before, though. I haven't ever seen it go that far. Sure, it must have been really far.
Because you're a fast learner.
I learned from people like Tammy, Fish Salt Queen, Doctor,
Yeah, the salt queen. Yeah.
We're gonna call her Dr. Salt.
Dr. Salt, yes.
Yeah. Here's a good one. I just now learning how to do some of this stuff. Now you can see it, right, Carrie?
Oh wow, yeah. I can see it now.
Yeah.
Which I have never disagreed with you, Joe.
Um,
All right, well, thanks for having me up. I'm gonna go eat lunch, but thank you for having me up. I appreciate
Take
it.
care, Kevin. It was good to see you.
Thank you, guys.
Nice to have you, Kevin.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Happy
I like what
holidays.
it says here as far as the water changes, the discus will grow, because something a lot of people don't realize is that when you're doing the water changes, you're not just cleaning the water, but you're also adding the minerals back to the water that your fish have already used.
Right, good point.
Because they do use those minerals from the water in their growth, your calciums, your magnesiums, and that sort of thing. So water changes are important with growth, simply to get the minerals back in the water.
Right. I think that's where a lot of conflict comes up too, where you'll see posts, well, how often do you change water? And then Carrie's in a hurry and he'll say, oh, I change 75% every day. But I didn't stop to say, I've got 200 fry in a 75-gallon tank, and that's why I do that. Where you have bigger of discus in an established tank, where you might not need to do so many water changes because of that reason. But yeah, I mean, a lot of that gets head bumping with some of that stuff. But yeah, definitely smaller fish, the more water you can change, the quality, keep it more stable. I think it's changing water, replacing the minerals, the elements, all that stuff is very important, especially for growth.
Absolutely.
There's a real science to water changes and growth. There's still a lot of research being conducted on that.
Yes.
A lot of us were focused on keeping the nitrates low, but replacing those trace elements and replacing some of the ions or the conductivity does help. But there's a real science to water changes and fry growth. I've seen it. And that's why a lot of commercial farms do, some of the eastern farms, they do large water changes at a time, sometimes 90%. Water changes daily. Some farms even do twice a day, 90%, because they're close to such a water source.
Right.
But a lot of guys do that, but some of us have water scarcity, or we need to use different ways to preserve water. And then what a lot of people ask me is, if I can't do a lot of water changes, then how do I maintain the quality of my water? And that's quite a tricky one.
Yes.
Good quality food, so you don't have too much fish waste, unnecessary fish waste, and preservatives and phosphates in your water. Because a lot of foods, I think, contain preservatives, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of fillers that aren't needed.
Yeah, and plants. I've got a lot of pothos plants. I'm gonna turn my cam that way. There's one over there.
Brazilian.
Sorry, I got disinfectant on my table in case when I
Send
got
me
rains.
off of that. I want some of your clippings.
That's a Brazilian philodendron, right?
Philodendron, yes.
Yeah.
The ones with the spots, I don't know the names.
Right, there's different
The ones with the
There's
spots
so
were not
many.
as effective in absorbing nitrates, but the light green ones do.
Yes, I have the exact
They don't
same.
need too much light. Yeah.
I think those are the Brazilian ones you have.
I don't know, but they do their job. So.
Yes, no, I use the same kind.
Yeah.
The white and yellow leaf.
Okay.
Of the stuff in my fish room, it's practically taken over, and I've even got some that we got wild from Florida when we were down there visiting with Pat. She has some that, I kid you not, the leaves were like that big.
Oh wow.
And we brought that back, and it's now taking over my fish rooms.
I like it though. I think it looks cool.
It does.
It
I mean,
does.
I've got it running along the air pipes and stuff. So, I mean, it kind of hides all that and gives
Our,
a lot of green to that sterile room.
The Toledo Zoo had a nice aquarium, and they did everything in philodendron. I mean, this stuff had so many root systems growing in the water, flowing out into the hallways. It was beautiful, and I mean, the fish all looked great. I even think Hans had a display there at the Toledo Zoo, and the discus were donated by him. But it was awesome. I like good aquariums and places like that, but that was the first time I've ever seen someone do it like that, and that's kind of how I got into doing it with my discus, was from
Wow.
the zoo. Yeah.
Sure. It's aesthetic and practical. I love it. It's like
Yeah.
a win-win recipe for anything.
Right. And see, I did that post, and they were it was a place in the UK, I think, or somewhere in Europe that did a tank that was completely with the roots under in the water,
hmm
and then the pothos on top,
Mhm.
the greenery completely on top. And I posted that one in the groups because it was amazing.
Yeah. That's how the Toledo Zoo was.
Yeah, I could have used maybe a little bit more of a root system type thing, but it was a really good representation for the Amazon. I really thought so, because
Yeah.
in the Amazon, underneath is all roots and dirt water, dirt floor and that sort of thing. There's not any plants to speak of. There's some here and there, but not a lot.
Right.
But all the plants and greenery above in the canopy, and that was just, I loved it. Absolutely loved that one.
Yeah.
So,
Well, ladies, I think I'm gonna partay and leave. It was great to meet you. Tammy, I'll talk to you later on. If we
Yes.
don't see you again soon, have a good holiday and good Christmas and a good New Year. All right.
absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's just nice to meet you, Carrie.
Oh,
Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing the
I-
knowledge as well.
I
Thank
feel
you.
the same meeting you. It's been great, and I hope to see you again. We'll keep in touch.
Yeah, I would love to.
All right. Take care, ladies.
The salt
Thank
dog
you.
lets me. See you, Carrie.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Guess we need to shut it down. We've been doing this for 2 hours now. Ivana.
There's
This
so
has
much to
been a
talk
great
about.
deal of fun.
There is
There
so
is.
much to talk about.
I'm actually hoping you might want to come back next week and do it again, and we'll talk about
I would love
different
to. Yeah. Yeah, normally I am away on weekends, Saturdays or Sundays. But it all depends.
We'll
Like every
work
second
out-
Saturday, I tend to be away. Like yesterday was the concert, and then I came back
Right.
now. But yeah, we could. I would love to be on the channel again.
Oh, absolutely. I know we're having to work on the time and everything, and I'm going to look at it again today and see, because I know right now it's probably 11 o'clock over there, since we've been doing this for 2 hours already. And that's kind of late, you know. What
I
I'm
stay up
saying?
late.
And see, I'm in bed early, so.
Okay. Yeah, and thanks to everyone that tuned in. I got some PMs on my phone, people that joined in, some of my local members. Thank you very much, guys, for watching and
Yeah,
for supporting the
absolutely.
channel. Remember to subscribe to Discus Talk.
Thank you. Make sure you click the like button if you liked it. Subscribe if you want. And we will see you guys next time. Bye, y'all.
Thank you, guys.